Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speedrunners and Coffee, the show where we find out about all your favorite speedrunners' histories. Today, my guest runs almost every Resident Evil, Dark Souls, just to name a few of the games that he runs. It's Deschain. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Abby. Thank you for asking.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
I run a decent amount of Resident Evil games. I never even noticed after like I don't look at my SRC profile. I'll run the games, submit them. The ones that I like, I grind for a bit.
Yeah,
Honestly, I didn't realize it's pretty much almost 1 to 8.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Not to mention the Tomb Raider and Dino Crisis, plus the Dark Souls. Dark Souls is kind of amazing. I've seen those speed runs from other runners and yourself, and Dark Souls is one of the games that I can't do. I'm just like, nah, fam, I'm not into it. But
They're tough runs. Like it's not an easy even with the glitches. I there's a lot of copy pastas, especially on YouTube comments for Dark Souls runs where it's like, "Oh, you're using glitches, you're cheating, you're making the game too easy." The game is not easy. Even with the glitches, the game is still hard.
yeah, as Black Basoup used to say, and he probably still says it, the glitches take hours to even get down. Trust me, they're hard. But yeah, what got you into speedrunning?
So I started speedrunning in 2021, end of April, essentially. It was during my third year final exams, and I was just super stressed about having to write these ridiculous third year level mathematics courses. And I was like, I need something to relax. And when Resident Evil 2 Remake came out in 2019, I beat it on PS4 because I didn't have a good enough computer at the time. And I kept playing it over and over again. Honestly, kind of speedrunning it before I was really very involved with the speedrun. Like I've seen a few GDQs, but I hadn't like gotten involved with any speedrun communities. And I was like, I can beat this game. I know this game. So I started like watching people. I think one of the first runners I started watching was Lucy Lover, who's amazing at Resident Evil 2, like one of the best. And so I was like, I just watching the runs and learning, and then I grabbed it and just did a run.
And I think you're one of the few runners that I know that has done both Leon and Claire. Usually, you only really see someone do one or the other. You don't really see people do multiples. Which one's your favorite between the two?
I honestly have to say Claire is, even though like she can be a bit wonky. Caution makes it a hard run. Like you're 1 to 2 hits from danger, and danger kills your run once you get to higher times. But Claire, especially if we have to think about category. So if I'm running 120, because for those who don't know, Resident Evil 2 Remake has a 60 and a 120 for FPS category because of the way the knife behaves. If I'm running 120, Claire's my favorite. Her knife angles are better. She moves faster. Her bosses are a bit easier. They're simpler to go for. But if we go to 60 FPS, Leon actually is the better option. And the main reason for that is the spark shot doesn't exist in Leon's campaign. So the spark shot is a weapon that Claire gets. It's in the sewers. She shoots it. You have to wait a bit for it to trigger, and then it does like a bunch of damage at once. But it also loves to just drop its damage. If an enemy gets too close to you, it loses its damage. If an enemy gets too far away from you, it breaks. If you move the wrong way, it breaks. And so you can just lose your damage randomly if the game decides it, or you can be off it by like a little bit and you lose the damage. Whereas Leon gets a flamethrower and you can just aim it at the enemy. Like it's only used for the G3 boss fight, or I guess G2 as well. But you can just aim it at the enemy, and it's gonna hit, and you're gonna do the damage, and the fights are easier.
Interesting. And what made you want to pick RE2 for your first game?
So the funny thing is that like when I was a kid, the game I probably played the most was Resident Evil 3 Original, but I had been playing a lot of RE2. I saw Box Claire run, his GDQ Claire run, and I saw Hazeblade's GDQ Claire run or Leon run, sorry. And I was like, hey, this game looks good. This run looks interesting. Like it doesn't look like they have to kill too many things. You can just run past most of the enemies. It's like an hour long. Like that's not that long. And so what I did is I was just like, okay, sure. That seems like a good game. I played the heck out of this game. I was running through it faster and faster and faster, just trying to beat it. So I was like, okay. And then I started looking into the strats, learning stuff. It's also just an enjoyable game. Like RE2R is probably one of the better remakes of the series.
Did you have any initial goals for the run?
Sub hour. My first run that I did was an hour and 25 minutes, I think, for Leon 60. At the time, I could only run the 60 FPS categories because my computer wasn't very powerful. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I was like, I can probably get an hour. Like an hour seems like a decent goal. It was like achievable, which is something I always do. Is I always set like achievable goals. I was like, I made a lot of mistakes. I can learn, and so I kept doing it. And I think I got an hour. Actually, I ended up switching to Claire before I got my sub hour because when I started running the game, I thought Tyrant was too hard of a boss fight. Like I thought the Tyrant final boss fight was too hard compared to G4, which Tyrant's still a tricky fight in that you have to get the 3 slashes fast, but G4 is more technically intensive. There's a lot of stuff going on to be able to get that fight down fast.
That's fair. What makes you decide on what game you're going to run? Like, how do you make that decision?
So it's a Dark Souls runner once was like, "Hey, do you just like spin a wheel every morning to decide what game you're gonna run today?" But I don't actually. I kind of just play a few games casually, and I'm like, this looks interesting. I've seen some people do runs of it. It doesn't seem like it's that bad to learn. But mainly I choose games that I enjoy. I don't want to be spending hundreds of hours on a game that I hate because that just sounds like a horrible time for you, honestly. So it's generally gonna be a game that I play, I enjoyed, and I thought, hey, how can I beat this faster? And then I'll try. I'm a bit weird. I don't know if other runners do this, but my method for learning a new game is to just do a run. You beat it casually, be like, okay, I'm gonna try to do a run. Don't know any strats, don't look at anything, just go. Just see how fast you can do it. I'll do like 2 runs like that, and then I'll actually look at strats.
Nice. Speaking of games that you enjoy, is there a game that you love but you could never run?
Game that I love that I could never run. Honestly, I'm probably gonna say RE3 OG. I tried to do the run, like I put probably 10 hours into trying to learn it, but it's a hard game. Like it's enjoyable. Jill's amazing. The way they built it's amazing, but the run itself is just it's tough to learn.
That's fair. Do you have any event rituals?
Generally for events, what I'll do is just take deep breaths. I even though I've done like events a decent amount and I do runs a lot, it's nerve wracking. So I'll make sure I always have water, and then I just sit there and then I'll just breathe. I'll talk to my commentator while you're waiting for it to open up, and then you're just breathing. I normally will pull up and practice stuff that I'm worried about. So if I'm doing, for example, most of the events I've done is for Resident Evil 2 Remake because that was my main game for a year and a half or so. And I'll pull up G3. G3 is probably one of the hardest fights there is to try to showcase correctly. So I'll pull that up. I'll practice it to just try to like get in the mood and be like, okay, you know what you're doing. Like just breathe. Don't get into your head. And then usually like the day before an event, I'll do some no reset runs with commentary just to make sure that my commentary is there. I know what I'm going to talk about because like half the thing of it is showcasing the run. The other half is like talking about what's going on in the run because otherwise it just looks like not like it can be confusing to viewers.
Is there a game you regret running or a game you wish you had continued to learn?
I wish I had continued to play Dino Crisis. Honestly, like it's an interesting game. I ran it after playing 3/4 of the way through it. Like I didn't finish it casually. I got like into the lab section near the end, excuse me, and I got lost and I just couldn't figure out a way to continue because survival horror games is kind of the whole point is you're in a maze. And I do miss running it sometimes. I know they have a door skip mod now, so it's a bit better to run. But the thing that kind of threw me away from Dino Crisis was that you'd be doing like your IGT is like an hour and a half, but your RTA is 2 hours because the doors pause. The IGT pauses on doors, and the doors scenes are like 7 seconds long. But I really wish I'd gone back and just done it because it's a fun game.
Yeah. So you were doing the PC version then?
Yeah, PC version of Dino Crisis.
Nice. I've kind of been thinking about doing the Dreamcast version because the PC version's not exactly my friend. Speaking of IGT, what is your opinion on IGT versus RTA?
So IGT, I most of the games I run. Let me actually look at my SRC quickly. Yeah, so 99% of the games I run are IGT. I think the only game I run that's RTA is a small little run and gun shooter called Prison Run and Gun. I'm a big fan of IGT. It eliminates load times for the most part, depending on the game. Like normally we'll say IGT, but also it could be LRT, load remove timers, which just help level the playing field if you have a better computer. The loading screens don't impact how much. I have no issue. Like RTA is fine as well. I just think it's a bit, you could get like a longer load sometimes. It depends on your hardware, and then you're losing time that's not your fault. I'd rather only lose time to something that I did than something that I did or the game did to me than to lose time to like my system being like, hey, this black screen is is gonna take 20 seconds longer. Sorry. And then you're losing time.
That's very fair. Do you have any influences in the speedrun world?
So I'm definitely influenced by Lucy Lover, the first runner I watched. I get a lot of influence from Marforia and Catlink. I don't really get to watch Cat all that much because she's on the same time zone and streams late, and I usually work morning shifts or I sleep normie schedule. But Mars actually one of the reasons I came back to RA2 for a bit, and I ended up getting a 10-second PB in Leon 120, which was surprising because I was burnt out completely on the game.
Nice.
And Lucy, of course, got me into running. He's part of the reason I'm an affiliate on Twitch. Part of the reason I stream, actually, like the entire reason I stream. I was strictly an offline runner until Lucy's like, "Hey, you're really good. Like, you should just stream these. Like, just show people what you're up to and how you're doing it." And it's like, yeah, okay. So love the dude. Love being able to hang out in his chats.
How do you not burn yourself out of speedrunning?
I'm a game switcher. I jump from game, like I'll do probably 3 to 4 months on a game. I'll burn myself out on a game. I'll put like 400 hours into the game, and then I'll just switch games. So like for example, currently I'm on a break from Dark Souls. I probably have around 400 to 500 hours in the game, and it makes me sick to look at the game. So I jump to I'm currently learning Tomb Raider, and it just helps me learn something fresh. You get back into the honeymoon period where you're always saving time or you're saving lots of time. I don't know what it is. I just once I get to that grindy stage, I was just like, yeah, I can't deal with this. And I'll jump to a different category.
That's fair. And given that this is a show called Speedrunners and Coffee, what's your favorite coffee?
So I'm boring in that I drink coffee with plain sugar. In terms of brand, we buy the cheapest coffee we can, which in our house is Maxwell House, which is not a very great coffee. I think it's a Canadian brand only as well. Not entirely certain about that. So I don't actually know any good coffee brands. I just I drink it to get the caffeine. That's about it.
That is fair. I've never had Maxwell House myself.
It's not good.
Don't know if it's Canadian. I'm trying to Google this right now. 'Cause I'm
American
like,
brand.
ah,
Apparently, it's a craft.
I guess we think it's Canadian because Canadian stereotype is that we eat craft dinner all the time. And who makes craft dinner? Craft
Craft.
foods. So yeah, apparently it's like 131 years old.
Yeah, didn't know. It's not very tasty. It's cheap though,
Yeah.
relatively.
Yeah. So like not even like a fancy Starbucks or fancy Tim Hortons drink is like
I mean,
your
one,
favorite.
if here's the thing, if we're drinking Tim Hortons coffee, what are we doing? Sorry.
It's okay. I don't like Tim Hortons.
I'm not a fan of the stereotype that Canadians drink Tim Hortons coffee because their coffee is actually just bad. They also burnt
Yes.
my tea. Like anytime I order a tea from them, they burn it. And I don't know how you're burning my tea. Please stop. No, like I've only had one Starbucks drink, and it was, let me see if I still have that text message because one of my friends recommended it to me. It was one of their crispy, I think it was like a praline chestnut latte or something like that.
Okay.
It was pretty tasty, but like I don't really go to Starbucks that much because I don't know. There's not very many close. Like the reason that Tim Hortons is the stereotype is because there's pretty much one on every corner, so you don't have to go very far to find a Tim Hortons. Versus a Starbucks, there might be like 5 or 6 in a medium sized city,
Yeah.
or I guess technically a large city.
When I see, I just moved recently and I lived in Hamilton, which is where Tim Hortons started. And when I lived downtown, there were 10 of them within a 3 kilometer radius. And I'm like, who the fuck needs this many Tim Hortons?
Yeah, there's too many.
Yeah, and their coffee is ass. Trust me, there's a ton of Tim Hortons slander throughout this entire podcast, and it's going to continue that way.
All right, good. Just making sure. I don't know if there's people that actually defend Tim Hortons, but they're not great. McDonald's has the better coffee in terms of fast food restaurants.
Yeah, fun fact, in episode 9 of this very podcast, we find out why McDonald's has the better coffee.
Oh, did someone go into that they bought Tim Hortons as original bean distributors?
Yes.
Okay, good. I love that people know that.
Yeah. And yeah, so it was like, haha, my favorite coffee drink isn't even technically coffee because it involves Coke. Because
Yeah,
Coke
no, my
makes
favorite
Coke
my favorite drink
coffees.
would probably be would probably be a tea. That's just a simple tea, a little bit of sugar, sometimes just black tea, but
Yeah,
honestly, if I'm going from a restaurant, it's not gonna be coffee because most places it's overcooked, burnt.
That's fair. I'm going to be honest, I'm not that much of a coffee aficionado because I didn't start drinking coffee till a year ago, maybe a little bit longer than a year ago, and it's been an interesting experience because unfortunately my first coffee was a Tim Hortons coffee,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was ass. And I kind of knew that
Yeah.
going in, but it was pure ass. I was like, who the is the, like, who drinks this?
Yet all their drive-throughs are constantly full and their buildings are constantly full, and I don't know why we're drinking this stuff.
I don't know why either. The only thing that I ever used to order from a Tim Hortons was an ice cam because that's the only thing, or like one of their like frozen lemonades or whatever.
The raspberry frozen lemonade is the only thing, and it's just pure sugar, and that's why it's good.
Tim Hortons is just gross. I won't drink McDonald's coffee either. I will go to a Starbucks. There's more fucking Starbucks in Toronto than there are Tim Hortons. It's kind of amazing.
I'm not surprised. I think there's like maybe 4 in this city.
It's pretty great. Fun. There's actually a Tim Hortons and a Starbucks across the street from each other, around the corner from me. And it's like,
Interesting.
oh, yeah. But typically I go for Coke coffees because it's just like, yes, this is great. It makes no sense, but I love it. So I recommend those to anybody that is not a huge fan of coffee, but maybe kind of wants to like dip their toe into it, because at least you're getting a, because it's half the calories of a can of Coke anyway, and the dark roast is pretty good. I haven't had the caramel one because I can never find it. Might be an American only thing, kind of like the zero variants of it, because apparently Coke Coffee Zeros exist, but I haven't seen them in Canada, but apparently they exist in the United States. That's about all I know. But getting back to the video games, is there any game you are looking forward to running?
I'm looking forward to running Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I mean, judging based off what I've ran before, no surprise to anyone. I don't know what categories they're gonna have, but based off the limited stuff I've seen in the Discord, which I scroll through occasionally, but not very often because there's a lot of people in there, some form of glitchless, no major glitches, whatever that kind of category ends up being. Because I spent an hour trying to do one of the skips that they found, and I just could not get it. And I'm just like, this is gonna frustrate the hell out of me if you're doing this like 7 times at least in a run. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'd rather just go around. So I'll probably do whatever form of glitchless they decide on.
That's fair. Any games you're currently playing?
Currently I'm running Tomb Raider 2013 glitchless. I don't know what my time goal is for that. I learned it while waiting for 4R to release, and it was fun. Did like, I think I've done 3 full runs so far, and it's like a 2-hour RTA run. Well, actually mine's a bit longer because mine's actually 216 LRT, so probably like 2.5 hours. I want to get that down to like sub 210 probably. And then I'm probably gonna do some casual games, which is another way that I avoid burnout, is just to like de-stress or just play a game normally. Just don't do anything. No
Yeah.
need to think about like going fast, strats or anything, just vibe with the game.
Do you see yourself going into the rest of the Tomb Raider remake trilogy?
I could do Shadow. I think Shadow is interesting. Rise was a fun game casually. But Tomb Raider runners, Rise is weird when it comes to the run itself. It just likes to like screw up. So I'd probably just do 2013 and then maybe Shadow.
Okay, that's sounds good. I've not played Shadow. I've played the original and I've played Rise. I haven't beaten Rise.
Rise
but
was fun. I enjoyed it casually. It's I didn't do all the side stuff. I'm not a big 100% person. Like I didn't actually get all the achievements in Resident Evil 2 Remake until like I had 600 hours in the game. So I just ran it instead of like doing the achievements.
Mhm.
I'm big on just like vibing with like if I find these collectibles, sure, I'm not gonna seek them out though.
Yeah, although seeking them out in 4R can lead to benefits for the speed run, unless you're doing
Yeah.
new game. But
I'm honestly, based off of most of that stuff, I'm a new game person. Like RE7, new game mostly. I do a couple new game plus runs, but it's mainly new game runs. I don't know what it is. It's just that new game seems more interesting, maybe. Like I know New Game Plus has tons of cool stuff. Like New Game Plus RE7 has tons of cool stuff as well. But New Game is just you grab the game, you'd go for it.
Yeah. Is there a skip you wished was in a game you run?
Yeah, something to skip Anor Londo, which is a Dark Souls 1 section. It's the City of the Gods. It's a like 3-minute run-in section where you have to dodge a bunch of 3 minutes. I think 3 minutes, where you're dodging a bunch of enemies. Just something to skip over the Rafters section, the Batwing Demons, the Silver Knight Archers. Just get me that ONS so I can die, please and thank you.
Yeah, I would like to skip
It's
all of that in general, even in a casual playthrough.
Yeah, I would just love to be able to just go from after Iron Golem to ONS without having to go through Anor Londo. It's just I am the main reason I've taken a break from Dark Souls is I started dying in Anor Londo on repeat and every run I was doing, and I was just losing it. I was like, okay, I'm done. Like I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds brutal. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time, speedrun wise?
I have to think where 5 years will put me in. Probably doing. There's probably gonna be more RE games. I don't know what game it'll be. I'll probably still be speedrunning just because this is fun to do. In 5 years, I'll probably be down to maybe three days a week at most because I'm hoping to be in a full time position by then. Yeah, probably just whatever newest Resident Evil or probably my comfort games. Honestly, chances are I'll probably be on RE2. I don't know why the game just keeps calling me back. I'll take like a year break and then come back to it.
Do you see yourself doing any of the other Souls games?
I've thought about DS2 any percent. It's not too long. It's just that I really wanted to get my Dark Souls one time like lower, but the DS3 is too difficult. I'm not. Anyone that knows me knows that I kind of actually hate Elden Ring, even though I'm still eventually gonna finish it casually. Maybe I have 100 hours in the game and haven't actually beaten it, and I talk a lot of crap about it, so I should probably actually beat the game. Not really gonna do a Bloodborne run because Bloodborne is console only, which makes it really hard to practice. And Sekiro broke me mentally, so probably not even gonna beat that game casually. So maybe DS2.
Okay, that's something at least. And do you see yourself going to like another horror series as well, or is it pretty much just Resident Evil?
Probably just gonna be Resident Evil. I have to think. I debated the Amnesia series at one point, but I still haven't actually beaten them casually either. But RE, it's something I played as a kid. Like you did that. You play OG, you play RE like 2, RE3, and they were my comfort. Like I find comfort in just doing stuff over and over again. I don't know what it is, but like just knowing what's gonna happen is a lot of comfort. Like watching movies over again, watching TV shows over again. It's comforting to just be able to do that. So I'll probably stick with the RE series because I know them the most.
That's fair. If you could create a game from an entirely different genre and add it to your favorite series, what genre of game would you add?
Oh, this is a hard one. So my favorite series is the RE series. What kind of genre could we add to the RE series and not make it garbage is the question. I don't even know. I think like an an RPG style RE game would be maybe passable. It'd be a bit interesting to say the least, but
Oh,
I don't know if it would really work that well. I'm trying to think about how like an open world RPG type style game would work for RE, and I don't know. But it'd be an interesting mashup to see what they could do with it.
yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. What was your proudest and lowest moments as a runner?
So my proudest moment is probably when I got my 5150 Claire A60 run because I jumped multiple minute barriers. So I was running the game, grinding to just get a sub 53. At the time, I had a 5540. And so I was like, okay, yeah, 53, like that's doable. I had like a minute at G2 or something, a minute and a half at G2 because that fight on 60 is difficult for Claire because Spark Shot is a thing that exists. And I ended up getting a 5150 and I kind of like broke down a bit because I'm like, what? I just wanted a sub 53 and I jumped like an extra minute barrier. So that's probably my best moment is just being able to jump that high because I've talked about this before with people and so I have an issue thinking I'm good at stuff. Like I look at my SRC and I'm decent at these games. I'm high ranking and stuff, and I don't know. My brain just doesn't want to recognize that I'm actually good at something. I don't know what that is about, but it just doesn't want to believe that I'm good at anything. So being able to jump those barriers and get to that point is like, oh my god, like holy cap, I'm good at something. Like I'm good at this game. Lowest moment, probably giving up on the sub 50 grind. Like I was 14 seconds away, 14 or 15 seconds away from being able to get sub 50, which is like a huge achievement in the Claire 120 run. and it was tough. Like I was, excuse me, I was doing the runs, I was getting RPD 2, and when you're coming back from getting the mechanical handle for the library, Mr. X has a chance of showing up at this door and just throwing you and losing you 9 seconds. And it happened over and over and over again. And I ended up being like, okay, you know what? I'm fucking done. Like I just quit. I was like, no. I think that was like when I started doing my first real big break and I started learning other games. So I was like, okay, I can't do RE2 anymore.
Is that something you would go back to and try again?
I've tried. It is very difficult still, and I cannot get back into it. Like it's Claire's just an incredibly difficult run to do. There's time save, like the record's like a 48 or something. So like there's tons of time save potential. I don't actually remember what the record is anymore. It's very low. 4807. So there's a ton of time, but it's a hard category. It's hard to get like runs going because it gets to that grindy stage and you just don't want to do it anymore.
What advice would you have given to your past self when you first started speedrunning, knowing what you know now?
Actually try to learn from practice. I mean, I still do this, so I need to like focus more on this myself as well. But my thing with practice is I do stuff, but I don't like think about why something's failing. Or I see practice as like a means to doing runs because I like runs more. Practice to me always seemed like you're boring, it's tiring and stuff like that. Like I always want to get it over with fast, but it matters a lot. Even though for some games it feels like practice doesn't actually matter because you mess up anyways. You'll practice something, you had it perfectly in practice, 20 times in a row, and then you do it in a run and it never works. But like you gotta do the practice. You gotta try to get everything to fail as well. You don't want to just get it to go perfectly. You want to be like, hey, if this fails, what can I do to save it? So I'm not just resetting and doing this over again.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would tell my past self to go easy on the resets. I'm very heavy on the reset button.
That's fair. How do you prefer to learn a new speedrun? Do you take notes, practice beforehand, or you just dive right in?
So, like I said earlier, for the first two runs, I generally just dive in. I'll do it myself, and then I will look at runs. I don't think I've ever actually written anything down. I'll just look at runs and then do it alongside. So, for example, Tomb Raider, Satori Earth, Mazen Runner. He has a tutorial for Tomb Raider 2013 glitchless, 6-part tutorial. I put it on and then I would watch like 10 minutes of it and then do that 10 minutes. And I would just go over it. So I would watch the video and then do the runs and then practice it as I was going. Normally I would just do the run, but this time I actually took the time to watch a tutorial because I knew that there was a tutorial from someone that I know. And then I took the time to learn the run. And so I've gotten decent runs already. And it's makes it significantly easier, honestly, than just diving right in. You learn a lot when you actually like watch what runners are doing.
That is fair. Well, I would like to thank you for coming on to the show. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
So you can find me at twitch.tv/Deschain33, all lowercase. I don't think it matters for Twitch, but if you want to watch my runs on YouTube, should be youtube.com at Deschain33. You can see my completed runs. I have tutorials on there as well. If you're interested in learning Resident Evil 2 Remake 60 FPS, I have a decent amount of tutorials. Warning, little word to the device. It was before I understood what filters were for microphones, so the audio is bad. But they're good tutorials, and you can learn a lot from them.
And any like social media or anything?
I use Twitter, Deschain33 on Twitter as well, mainly just for going live posts. Not very active on like photos or stuff like that. I kind of just like I mainly use Discord. Honestly, you can find me like Resident Evil Discords, especially like again to make. I'm very active in the to make Discord. If a new runner comes in, I'm usually able to help really quickly.
Nice.
But yeah, Discord's honestly the main social media I use.
Okay. Well, again, I super appreciate you coming on, and best of luck in your future runs. Farewell, everyone.